All right, man. So as soon as we got off yesterday,
Yeah.
anyway, as soon as we got off the
Once we got
podcast,
off with Dick yesterday.
yeah, we were like, we started talking about hypotheticals that got us pretty pumped up. So let's pick up where we left off. And the start of the conversation was if we were to trade up, because it seems like there's a couple of teams that are dissatisfied with their pick.
Oh
You know,
yes, there's always
Detroit at
those.
5, the Rockets aren't happy, all right, whatever. So even rumors of the Trailblazers pick being available, but um, who would we trade up for, right? So one of those picks might be available. What player would be worth trading up for, according to Sam Presti and the Thunder? So let's start there, bro. You go.
Well, the first, I mean, it's the constant battle of finding a defender first, somebody that can go in there and start being a defender right away. Versus what's up, Mwani? Versus somebody that's going to go in and just dominate on offense and be a problem on defense. Because the way our system works is always defensive first. So that was the key when we're looking at breaking down these guys is which players are heads above the rest defensively and which players have an incredibly high upside on offense. So for me, I kept on going back and forth on these players, but really that number six,
What up, Carson?
slot, 6-7 slot is the one I'm really curious in because to me, that's the most valuable pick in the draft at this point.
All right,
Maybe
so
even five.
let's do two hypotheticals and say, let's take the last two drafts and say if we had a certain particular pick. Um, so a few
What's up,
years ago,
Carson?
we got Josh Giddey with number 6.
Yeah.
So who would we take in this draft if we had the sixth pick?
All right. I mean, straight up, man. He's my favorite player in this draft. I told you before we got on yesterday, after we got off the pod, I said he is my favorite player in this draft. But the thing is that there's no way he's going to be available at 12. There's just no way. In order
Okay,
for us to get him, we have to trade up.
good guess, Milani.
Good guess,
But
Milani. Getting close, getting close. But I will tell you this: is
he's teasing.
he's a 19-year-old. He's 6'7". His wingspan is unknown, but I'm telling you guys, it's probably 7 foot, 7'1" is the way that he uses his hand speed and his arms. It has to be up there. Top end defender, 2.1 steals a game, guys. Great defender. And on top of that, he plays the guard position. He plays 1 through 3 with the best of them. He can even probably end up playing 1 through 4 if you put some weight on. I'm talking about the Arkansas guard, Anthony Black, guys. Anthony
All right,
Black
Anthony
is
Black.
spectacular. Every single
Anthony
time I
Black.
see him play, and listen, I'm an Arkansas fan, and I think I'm pretty clear on that. I love Arkansas. I love the way they develop players. I've been an Arkansas fan since the early 2000s, and I'm telling you guys, the way that they are bringing these young athletes out is crazy. So for me, I'm looking at
So
Anthony Black and saying
let
he's
me
the
ask you a
top of
difficult
my list.
question. If it came down to you for you, Scoot, if you had the number 2 pick and you had to pick Scoot or Anthony Black, you had that choice, and you were like Presti, and you didn't give a fuck about trading back. You're gonna take your guy.
Well,
Would
let's
you
just do what
take
we did
Anthony?
yesterday, man. Can we do
Okay,
that? Can we break it down? Like, obviously, Victor's off the board at number one.
okay.
Okay, let's just say that's an obvious thing. Number two, I said, we were talking about it. I like Brandon Miller's game, but you brought it up. He's had gun trouble. All right, not necessarily gun trouble. He's been linked to gun trouble,
Associated to
associated with gun trouble. All right, that
incident.
automatically puts a red flag up. And then the next person was Scoot Henderson, and I watched the way that Scoot Henderson plays, and I love it. He attacks the hole, but his mentality reminds me a lot of Jalen Green for the Houston Rockets. And I don't know how that translates in the NBA around these other players. So then I start looking at all these other guys, and I'm telling you guys, the way that I would go if I had the number 2 pick, and it's crazy, is I would trade back to number 4. I would go from 2 to 4, and I would pick up Anthony Black, plus I'd pick up a couple extra picks in the process.
But
Because,
if you had to stick with the number 2 pick, would you take Anthony Black at number 2?
yes, and I would do it without even like hesitating. Like Anthony
Because when I
Black, in
look
my
at him, I
his
look at
his
someone.
mentality in life, his way he handles himself as a professional, and the way that he plays defense right now, and he can develop into a top 15 scorer in the league. And how many guys are in this draft that can say that?
I like his mechanics on his shot. And if you were to say he could develop into a 40% 3-point shooter in the NBA career, or like, for his prime, um, I think a lot of people really feel like he would be one of the best picks in this draft, right behind maybe even number 2 because of his size. The question
Dude,
is,
listen,
will
it's
he
not off
develop
the
into
board.
that?
If we hear more stuff about Brandon Miller,
Right.
right, and he ended up dropping back to like 4 or 5, Scoot Henderson, everybody is saying an automatic, but I'm not sold on Scoot Henderson being number 2 because I think that a lot of people see what I saw and the mentality and the attitude of life is, like I struggle at certain players in the locker room. And because you look at Shea as a leader, and you don't want anybody, and I associate the Jalen Green, the Anthony, he's over for the Wolves, Anthony, second year, third year player.
Oh, and
Yeah, Ant. I associate the attitudes that come with those players that will go out there, and they'll be great players, but you get to the locker room and you're
exactly.
like, what's going on with the locker room? Like
Exactly.
we don't need that like stuff. We need guys that are coming in that have good attitudes that are going to do whatever it takes to get playing time, not get upset if they're not getting playing time.
Right. And we saw Jalen Green kind of, push back to the whole idea of them getting Harden, which is good. I mean, it's a terrible idea for Houston to get Harden. We'll get into that later on, but um, absolutely 100%, Mwani, you are correct. I think he's very similar to Josh Giddey. He's um, also different enough where you could
His
see
defense
him.
is spectacular.
Really, let's talk about it, dude.
All
Why
right.
don't you give us a player profile to break
All right,
down?
man. So I usually I stop. I try to go as much information as I possibly can go um, on 2 pieces of paper, front and back usually. But I was unable to do that today because again, Anthony Black is one of those guys that really stand out, and his defensive mentality in life is amazing. So let's just start with the defensive end, like you said. I the way that I explain Anthony Black is, with every battle, with every war, you always have to have the tip of the spear. You know what I'm saying? You have to have somebody that's willing to do whatever it takes. And typically that would be like your infantry or special forces that are going to be the first guys in the ground that are going to go do what it takes to get dirty. You know what I'm saying? Anthony Black is that guy. He picks up the point guard as quickly as he possibly can. He is up in their face. He is physical. He loves to be the tip of the spear on a defensive team. Okay. One of the things I loved about him is that the way he plays team defense on top of that. It's not necessarily about the one on one, the ISO game that he's incredible at, but it's more so how he plays defense as a team. And he includes everybody. He gets the pick and rolls. He has these guys where he's not necessarily concerned about getting the steal, but more so the deflection and getting up the court. Also, is I've seen him on multiple occasions get deflections and not go for the steal or not go for the fast break, which so many players do this. Now, why is that important? It's because he stays with his man. So if they don't get the steal, he has an opportunity to still get another stop on defense. And that's crucial. He's not selfish. He's not trying to get the court and get an easy cherry picking 2 point bucket. I like that because there's not enough of these guys that are unselfish like that. Um, like I said, 1 through 3, and his IQ on defense. And I'm going to mention this a lot, guys, because the way he is incredibly intelligent on defense is something that is next level. He's only 19 years old. And I didn't get really too much into the stats that he was able to put out there other than the 2.1 steals a game, his incredibly fast hands that create so many crazy deflections. And I think that's a huge part of the game. On top of that, nobody really knows his wingspan right now. They will soon because the combine and everything. But he's 6'7" with, if he's not 7 foot wingspan, is damn close to 7 foot wingspan. And that is going to be that transitional guard that the NBA is talking about. He still has a lot of weight he can gain with his body frame, which I like. And I would call him probably the best defender in the draft when it comes to team and ISO combined. He is his top of the line. I would even say he's top of the line in the last 5 years, man. Like this young man is going to make a huge defensive impact right away in the game. And I like that because there's not enough of that. I've got more, but I'll let you go because I know you got something to say.
Oh no, I was just reacting to how highly you had him on defense. Go. I mean, for me, everything I have to say about him was offense. I didn't really pay much attention to scouting his defense, other than as it pertains to him getting out and running,
Yeah.
and turning that into offense. And I saw plenty of that, but I didn't mean to interrupt you. You keep
No,
you
no,
keep
no.
going.
I'm good. Um, I love how he blocks shots, man. He's one of those trailing block shots. We saw a couple big men for Arkansas that were able to step up, either go for a charge or go for a block or make the guard switch his position, and Anthony Black would come out of nowhere and he would block that. I like how he did that. I like the fact that he can get beat yet recover.
Hmm.
He doesn't get beat often, or if he's coming over to help out, that's another thing that he's really good at is recognizing when they have beat them on defense, beat their defense. He will help out, come and get a nice little swat. He's just really intelligent when it comes to these defensive plays. I said fast hands, deflection machine, IQ defender, large wingspan. He's sneaky on defense, right, guys? I love this because he plays in the lanes, right, the passing lanes, but he's sneaky about it. So players don't even see him. So he'll be sitting back there, and all of a sudden he'll cut in the lane, boom, gets a steal. He is incredibly intelligent in how he uses his body so that they don't see a lot of it, especially driving to the hole. I love the fact that he's able to do this. His nut is guarding the point guard, guys. Okay, think about that. His nut is guarding the point guard. If he has an opportunity to guard the point guard on ISO and get that spot to get him up right away and meet him on defense, he charges up the energy and he gets amped up. What I love about that is that would fit so perfectly with exactly how we need a defender on this team. He would come down immediately, pick up the point guard, create a defensive interference right away, allowing everybody else to settle down and get ready for the defensive set, which is only like 20 seconds, so 24 seconds, but 20 seconds before they end up taking a shot. So it's incredibly intelligent the way he plays defense, and the fact that he's able to get the energy like that. He picks pockets like he is professional pocket picker, man. I'd never seen a player that's able to just sneak in there without getting fouls. Yesterday when we were watching Dick, and the day before, the other player that we interviewed that I can't even think of, right, or not interviewed but watched. I watched all those guys and I say those guys are elite at picking pockets, but Anthony Black is like, it looks like it's a masterpiece. It looks like it's a painting. It looks like it's like a beginning of a song, right? And he's still trying to figure it out. And that's the thing that's so unique about it, is that he's not done perfecting that craft of picking the pockets. And I love it, man. Like, if a defender isn't okay, so let's just say he's playing defense on the perimeter, right? And he's got the point
Hmm.
guard on his mind, and the point guard picks up the ball, right? There is no better person to have the ball picked up and he defending. I mean, it's not going to happen a lot in the NBA, but when the offensive player is set and he's not moving, he gets so many deflections at that point because he plays a little bit off, and he's able to do that because of his long arms and his strength and his reach. It's truly spectacular to see how he plays when a player picks up the ball and is pretty much a dead ball. And
Hmm.
that's where he starts shining. And that to me was like the moment that I was like, okay, it doesn't matter where he's at on defense. If he's playing defense, he gets around those screens, he gets these tips, he gets these blocks, he gets these charges. He does it all. It's not just one dimensional on defense. It's everything. And that's what was so impressive, is that he's only 19, but he's the most complete defender in this draft. And yet not a lot of people see that because they're still not able to really truly recognize what is happening in Arkansas as developing players.
All right, so that's some good shit, dude. That's not anything I would have picked up. I almost felt like, are we even talking about the same player a couple of times? But in the end, it's just because I was focused completely on his offensive game. So offensively, I think of a little bit Penny Hardaway,
Yeah.
but more of a modern player. A little bit of Luca with his cross court one hand passes. Um, I saw some people compare him to like LaMelo, and I think that's interesting because he has a little bit of like the ability to play at a different pace than what people expect.
Sure.
And because of that, it kind of looks a little bit herky jerky. Um, but I wouldn't say that he's a herky jerky player by any means. It's more like the difference between your perception of him and his actual play style is what makes it a little bit different. He's
Hmm.
deceptively athletic. He gets out and runs really quickly. He finishes on the break with authority, although from what I read, his best finishes came early in the season. As conference play picked up, he found himself out in transition a lot less, but there was enough to like recognize with him that if he develops that shot, if he develops a legit 3-point shot, his gravity, the pressure he puts on the rim, and his ability to carve up defenses with passes, it's legitimately one of a kind in this draft. He reminds me a lot of the way Luka fell to 5, Giddey fell to 6. There's a certain height of professional when you look at it and you say like, what did Magic and Bird really have in common, right? Like mostly the game becomes a lot easier for you when you're 6'9". Like 6'9", if you can run and you can jump and you're athletic and you're creative and you can handle out on the break, like you can play 20 years a lot of times.
Sure.
Because you can lose athletic ability and still be able to play the game like it's out in front of you. And I don't know, maybe 20 is an exaggeration, but like the high end of a career, if you can, if you can score at 3 levels, if you can defend, and you're 6'9", and I know he's listed at like a 6'7", 6'8" kind of height.
Yeah.
But the reality is, when he's in the league, they're going to list him at 6'9", and I just feel like you have to look at him as a top tier prospect for the league as it is. And I'm not saying. I mean, it's difficult because when you look back at the Luka draft, right? There was all this like obsession about Ayton, and Ayton is now like, but it was like the same thing that caused people to draft Greg Oden. This conventional wisdom is what led people to draft Ayton, which is if you have a 7-foot post player that can be dominant, that's available, you have to take him because he has the highest ceiling. And Oden led to KD being drafted at number 2, and Ayton led to all sorts of stuff, and Luka falling and being picked up by Atlanta, then being traded to Dallas for Trey. Like that whole situation to me is indicative of what I think Anthony Black will be looked at in this draft. Now, that's a little bit high, and we're not really like trying to obsess about a player that we can't get our hands on. So the first half is of what we were talking about the other day is like,
Yeah, but before you go any further, I want to throw this comparison out because it's something I consistently think about when I'm watching Anthony Black is, you know how the iPhone 5 or iPhone 4 were just amazing when they first came out. Like they were just the coolest things ever, right? Fast forward to now, iPhone 15s, right? They're slow.
bro. What's up, guys?
They're small. There's so many different aspects of what the iPhone 15 or 14 can bring to you versus what an iPhone 4 is able to bring to you. I look at the way that the draft is going this year and last year, and I have to say is that I almost feel like if the last 2 drafts, right? So this year and last year, 23 and 22 drafts, if it wasn't for a couple of these players, right? I'm telling you guys right now is that there is no better young men than the next 30 young men that are going to be drafted from the draft and the last 30 young men that were drafted from the draft. And I mean that with all due respect in the NBA because the NBA is changing so much. So if you drafted anybody 3 years ago, like somebody like, let's just say Jalen Green, right? And you put all your stock in a scorer, and you're like, a scorer is going to lead the league. And then all of a sudden you have a guy that can't play defense. We're shit. But he can score, right? What are you looking at? You're looking at an iPhone 4 and iPhone 5. And you're saying, I want to upgrade to the iPhone 14. Well, how do I do that? Well, it's too late. I've got an iPhone 4, and I just did a 2-year contract with it. You see what I'm saying? All these old players that have been drafted prior to what the Oklahoma City Thunder and everybody else is now drafting like is old school basketball now. And it's not going to be looked at in the future as like, oh, wait. I mean, people might say, well, 3 years ago. Well, yes. But there's so many of those guys that 3 years ago that wouldn't be drafted in the top 10 or top even 15 in these drafts. So for me, I keep looking back and saying, these are the young men that are going to be leading the NBA for the next 15 years. And that is what's exciting to me. So that's why I'm excited that in a way, Anthony Black is that, 2024 version, 2023 version of an iPhone when everybody is stuck
Yeah.
on a 2005.
Josh is saying that Anthony Black is listed at 6'5" and 3/4 on the combine without shoes.
Oh,
And
really? So he got smashed on that,
but
bro.
here's the thing: there's a couple of things. First of all, like when they list your height in the league, they don't really say without shoes. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but still, that's here's the thing.
You
That's
can also
the
slouch for this shit, bro.
I see what you're
Like
saying.
if you're trying to manipulate it, I've like legitimately, Josh Giddey entered the league as a 6'6" player. That's what everybody had him listed as. 6'6" point guard. It was obvious to us that he wasn't 6'6".
Yeah.
Anthony Black, to me, like, look, if he has a 7-foot wingspan, like you're saying, which I think is a little bit stretching it, but who cares? Like, we call those go-go gadget arms. And that makes up for a little bit of lack of height. But he does not look like, when he plays, he doesn't look like a 6'5" player.
No.
You know what I
He looks
mean?
way bigger. I mean, and
So
that's
I
scary.
question, but to me, like, in the end, he has the skill set, he has the athleticism, which was a surprise to me, frankly. He has the ability to shoot, which is a big question mark for people. But at this age, at this development, I look a lot more at form than percentages,
Yeah.
right? And if he has the right form, if he has the ability to improve, if he has like a smooth release, then yeah, maybe with a certain team, like if he went to Charlotte, maybe he would never develop into a legit 3-point shooter. But with the coaching staff and the development we have, I look at him as not being a huge project for our coaching staff, someone that we would invest in, but it wouldn't necessarily. Okay, so 6'7.5" wingspan according to the combine, says
Wow.
Josh. But
Just
you know,
yeah.
that I don't know how
you're
would
right,
fake
Josh,
it,
but he just seems so much bigger. So much
Yeah.
bigger.
Yeah, but I think for me, what I look at him is his feel for the game, right? His ability to play in space,
Yeah.
and what he would look like. And I think Mwani, like he said, he's a lot like Giddey, is similar anyway. Like, could you find yourself in a spot where you're like, we don't need another player that can, defend 1 through 4, right, and play out in
Well,
space.
really 1 through 3. Let's just say 1 through 3 right now. 1 through 4 developing.
Okay, yeah, but over a career, I'm talking
Yeah.
about like he'll develop into the player who can hold his own on the 4, at least switch 1 through 4, maybe not play the whole 4
Sure.
position, because Giddey's already shown that he can play the 4 on defense. So
Absolutely.
you don't need another guy like that. I think so. For me, like I get very carried away because of his style of play. I see it as seamlessly fitting in, and one of those guys that with the ball in his hands, like he reminds me of like a young James Harden, or like the type of player. I have to admit, when James Harden was in college, I did not watch him play.
Sure.
When we drafted him, I didn't really go back and watch the stuff until he became really good, and then I was like, okay, let's go back and watch what he looked like in college to see if we can identify some people who have similar skill sets, and see what's happening. So with the ball in his hand, he reminds me a lot of James Harden, but he passes like a. And I get it. Luka was developed better at that age because of the professional system. So I wouldn't say like it's a great comp for Anthony Black to be compared to Luka, but I 100% believe overall for him, I would say he's more likely to have a long career than Scoot Henderson. I think at Scoot's best, he has to be. I get some people say Ja, like maybe some people say Chris Paul. I like some version of in between.
I have to say, I watch him play. On defense, especially, I think of Tayshaun Prince. I mean, that's what
For who?
Anthony Black.
Really?
I'm telling you, man. Like that's the thing is like that.
But
when
not
people
offensively, bro.
not offensively. Offensively, like I said, like J-Dub. We're looking at J-Dub as a defender last year at this point. We're looking at Ojman Jang as a defender at this point. We were looking. I mean, we can go down the list. We draft defenders that are
Okay.
good defenders that have a potential of getting better offensively.
Like I need to be honest, bro. I scouted his defense almost zero. So I trust you because you're usually correct about these
Listen,
things. But
he's just lanky, he's skinny, and he uses his hands like Tayshaun Prince does. Like, remember how Tayshaun Prince would be like, the ball would be like 3 inches from his face, and his hands would be down, boom, and you'd tap it. Like he
Yeah,
had
I'm
this
running.
unique way of using his hands so quickly to deflect the ball and create a steal. It's just to me like the fluent in his game and the way that he goes along with it. It's just it reminds me of a young Tayshaun Prince, and to me, you cannot let a player like that, not going, if you have an opportunity to draft him at least, not draft him because if he develops into an offensive threat, which I think he could, you got what, a top 20 player in the NBA now?
Yeah, I mean at 6'7" range, although I'm giving him shoes right now. If you can play point guard, like I think,
It's just ball handler. It's not necessarily point guard. In the system that we have, there's no real one person that plays point guard over the
yeah,
others.
but in the end, I would say another threat to throw the full court pass and start transition breaks. Another threat to put the
He
ball in the
loves
court
breaks,
a
bro.
couple of dribbles and then kick it to a wing like
Mm.
Isaiah Joe.
Yep.
Like you're right. When I say point guard, I kind of use it more of like a mentality of, be a creator.
Yeah.
And that's what we
Absolutely.
need. He's got the size of a forward. Maybe maybe I'm exaggerating, and I keep exaggerating, and I'm gonna keep doing it because that's the sense I got from watching him, his body style and everything. It was like he's going to be able to do what he wants. Like a lot of players when they come into the league, you wonder, okay, will he be able to play his game in the NBA? That's the number one question I have. Like, okay, that's great. You can go out there and play that way in the Final Four, but you're playing against young men. What happens when you go up against grown ass men?
Yeah.
And if you have that question, and I think you should always ask that question about every player, and I've never been so confident that a player like Anthony Black will come in and immediately be like a transcendent star. Um, if I was any team, 2 through 5, you got
You
to
have
be
to have
like,
him on there.
you
And
get drop what you're doing and pick him and build around him. But at the same time, all those teams like they all seem like they're
see,
throwing fits, bro. They're like,
and
I can't believe we got stuck with this stupid pick.
yeah, and that's the thing about it is that that's what Sam Presti loves to do. He pops in there and gets the guys that he wants for cheaper, And El Sombra, I get it. It's a big comparison, but go watch Prince in college. Go watch go watch what he did in college, and then at 19 years old, and then you can sit there and say, "Oh, okay, yeah, I see the comparisons." Because that's the thing. I'm not comparing Black to Tayshaun Prince late in his career because that's not fair to Black. I'm talking about early in his career. You have to sit down and say the way he deflected the ball, the way he was able to stay in front of his defender, and then if he got beat, he automatically got that block. Like it's so much like what he did early in his career that it's very impressive.
All right, so that's the fun part. We had fun. We kicked it around. We said Anthony Black, all right, and
All
we
right.
can even imagine what it would look like with him out there playing. So the hard part, if we were to try to make a move and say secure the fourth pick, the third pick, the fifth pick, whatever,
Fourth or fifth would be the cheaper of the options.
what would it cost us? I was looking at our upcoming picks, and I think if we were to pool some of our upcoming picks, we could probably once again trade for the 11th pick in this draft. It would probably be a 3-for-1 style.
Okay, let's just talk about this for a second. All right,
But if
I'm
you
ready for
want
this.
you'd have to give something up.
I'm Sam Presti.
A 4 or
I'm
5.
keeping a very close ear on what's happening with Houston because if all of a sudden Houston signs James Harden, right, and they go out and they recruit other good players, right, a good player here, a good player there, my top 4 protected pick from the Houston doesn't look so sexy anymore, right? But there's rumors before that ever happens. That's next year. So if I'm Sam Presti, I'm keeping a very close ear on that because if all of a sudden something like that starts getting in the works, I'm trading that pick before it becomes less valuable. Because right now it's one of the most valuable picks in the Thunder's asset. And if we take that pick, right, top 4 protected, and we take, I don't know, if we want to keep number 12, right? If we want to keep number 12, take that pick and we combine it with 2 other picks, I think there's a chance that we can move up. It would take us 3 decent picks, and we have those. But the thing is that if Sam Presti is set in the team that we were going to have this next year, like he is this year with the picks that he traded this last year, I have to say he's gonna be like, listen, I think we're good here. Let's trade some of these picks that we have for coming in next year. We'll protect them so that if they hit in our range, then we're good. Otherwise, let's go ahead and ship those picks off.
All right, so this gets us into the muddy stuff of first of all, Do you think signing Houston, no, Houston signing James Harden is enough to devalue that pick enough to trade it, or should we still wait on it because there's such a good chance that he's not enough to get them out of
Well,
the bottom of the league?
he's definitely not enough to not he's enough to get them to the playoffs.
Well, because here's my thing, right? Like right now, it's more likely that we're not going to collect on it being a bottom four than like a Harden suddenly coming in and making it like the 20th pick.
Just the Harden move doesn't concern me, man.
I agree, Ryan.
It's not that's not the part. It's more so.
Yeah, money.
It's more so. It's the next move that they trade some of their young assets to get a blank player on their team. Like that's the problem. That's the problem that will devalue that pick. And if James Harden's going there, he's not going there by himself. You know, he's just not. He's not going to go into a situation where he's going to have to be the mentor.
So
hey guys, we're going to the strip club tonight.
Because I agree with Al Summer saying, which he says Harden is very injury prone and he could easily miss half the season. So it's not enough to suddenly give up the top four protected, because that could all of a sudden make it
No, but you protect that. You protect that from 7 to 4, and then
really?
You know what I'm saying?
Can you add protections to a pick you're
Absolutely.
trading?
You can do anything. You own the pick. You can do anything you want with it.
So would you make it
I would say like protected.
Really? I would say top 15.
I mean, here's the thing: is that at this point, I mean, anything that's after 12,
right,
is going to take years to develop at this point.
So here's the thing: you're gonna have to trade 2 or 3 picks that are like hopefully have a chance of not being top 10 picks to move up into the top 4, 5 range. Okay?
Houston could do it. You know why Houston could do it? Let me tell you why Houston could trade this pick. Houston says, "Hey, Thunder, we want our pick next year back. We don't want
exactly.
We don't want you guys to have it, because if we get number 5 next year, we don't want that. So we're willing to trade you this 4th pick. What is it, 4th or 5th? They have whatever. It doesn't matter. We're willing to trade you this pick plus blank pick and blank pick." You know, I could see something like that happening, so that because they don't value this draft as much as they do next year.
I heard the next draft isn't as strong. That was from Sam Facini. I haven't dug into it yet.
Yes, but there's 3 or 4 players in next year's draft that I would consider a top 5 player in this year's draft. You know, at this point, you know, like there's a couple players that are still yet to see.
In the end, there's an element like other than the Houston trade, which could happen, but it'd be hard for me to see Houston trading the 4th pick when their next pick is already top 4 protected.
I know. So that's what I'm saying. It would have to be a move that they were just like so concerned about next year's pick and losing that pick
there you go,
that
Ryan.
they're willing to give up 4th and move back to 12.
If they're going to give up a little bit more, and Houston's intent on getting better,
yeah,
and this goes back to what Al Summer was
year.
saying a second ago, which was sadly you would probably have to include a player that would make Houston better. So
and I didn't want to bring that up. I didn't want to bring that up.
No, we don't want to talk about that. That's
and I don't want to talk about that. But that's an obvious, like, you're absolutely right, bro. Like 100%.
Let's talk about it.
All right.
Would we be willing to give up, like Ryan saying, Isaiah Joe, or El Sombra said, Dort? He mentioned Giddey, but no Giddey. Like that's a full blown non-starter.
No, hell no. That's an automatic no.
Okay.
For Giddey.
So would we be willing to give up Dort, maybe Joe?
God, bro.
We'd all love to say like just give up.
I would say no to Joe.
No to Joe.
No to Joe. No, Joe is untouchable in my opinion, and it wouldn't matter. I mean, it wouldn't matter if we could get the number 4 pick. And the reason is because guys like Joe don't ever come. They just don't. Like, you can't. If we have Joe and we sign him to the next contract and we're able to keep Joe, and he gets that 42, 43% shooter, like I know he's going to in the NBA, he could even get higher than that. Like, why would you ever trade a guy that's willing to do whatever it takes on defense like he does too? You don't want to trade Joe.
Sup, Shane?
So I think you come back
so that Ryan's saying, like, I'm sorry, Josh is saying, like, we knew that Portland was, or Dane was in love with Dort, and it kind of came on the scene a little bit last year, and here we are again. We're kind of talking about it, and I feel like
that's the thing about it. If it went down like this, Houston and Blazers, and they both wanted Dort, it could be literally a pick swap for Dort because they both play against each other. They both want him. They both say, we'll give you this, and we want this back. And then, like, Sam's like, no, but the Houston Rockets are saying they want this back. And then they go back and forth to the point where it's like Dort for the pick. And that's the thing is, like, if there's 2 teams, if we're 2 teams that are going back and forth for it, like, and they're saying we want Dort over it, and you're not going to be able to pick up a player like Dort for 1 pick.
But
period.
let's say Dort's off the table.
Yeah.
Let's just say, can it get done?
No. Dort is the key piece to this.
So
If the
then
Thunder want to
it's
move up and they don't want to trade their pick and they want to keep their 12th pick, Dort is the key. If they're willing to trade their 12th pick and add a couple other picks to it, then they could do it without.
now. Here's the flip side of it, and I think this needs to be considered, right? If you say Joe, and I understand everybody in the chat is saying like, no, we can't let go of Joe, right? And I get it, but if you can turn Dort and Joe, two free agents, really, value contracts into a top 5 pick, like at sometimes you just got to know when to hold them and know when to fold them, right?
No,
And I understand
you're right.
I understand that their value to the team is higher than that, but that's also why, like, you're gonna get an elite talent, right?
If you ask me Poku or Joe, I would say Poku. For me, keeping, I would say trade Joe over Poku, because to me, um, I saw a picture of Poku. There's no way he's not 220 now.
bulking up.
He's bulking up, man. Like that's what I'm saying. Is it like if you're saying to me we could get the 4th pick and all we would have to do is send Isaiah Joe and Lou Dort for the 4th pick or 3rd pick, I would say we have to do it. You know,
Just by virtue of the fact that
because now we're trusting in J Dub to take over Dort's spot, and that's all that is. It's not a we're throwing you out. We're not doing that to Dort. We're saying like I said in the past is that players are automatically in this system are eventually going to be outplayed. When they're outplayed, they become a tradable asset. And if you live by that rule, then you just have to keep on turning over players as it comes. It doesn't mean you don't stick to a team that says, oh, yeah, this is perfect. This is the guys we want. And that, I believe Dort's in that future of it. But this is the 3rd or 4th pick in the draft.
Poku is iPhone 40. Thanks, Josh. That's great. But yeah, I mean, dude, 100%. And then I kind of agree with Ryan. Yeah, like this with man. Like, he's not going to get the deal done. And I feel like, in the end, the best thing for the Thunder to do, because his value isn't more than where his pick was, is to let him play out into free agency and maybe do a sign and trade for a team that sees the potential. But they're going to have to give him burn for him to have any value. I think he can earn more minutes. I think his approach to the game has to change a little bit. Like, I think he kind of felt like after his rookie year and he got a lot of minutes, he felt like he was going to automatically get minutes. And then it was like, well, you didn't earn them. It's hard on him. So, yeah, you can't get any value in trading him right now as far as, like, additional, like, maybe he could be a part of a package and it would be value in a small way, like more like a second-round pick value kind of thing.
Sure.
But in the end, he's not going to get a deal done. The deal's going to have to be somebody that hurts to let go. And I fear that we would end up turning down the ability to get another top 5 pick because we get too attached to undrafted free agents.
But listen, that's what Sam Presti won't do. I promise you. That's the thing that I'm saying is that, like, if a team came to him and said, we're willing to trade you, but we want this and this player back, and it's a top 5 pick, like, Sam Presti knows the value in this draft. And as much as he loves and has attached himself to these players, you have to take a step back and say, what can we do to better our team long term and short term? And yes, a top 5 pick doesn't necessarily make you a better team right now, but in 2 years, when that top 5 pick is actually playing really good, it makes you a better team day 1 of year 2.
Do you see another player that Sam Presti might be willing to trade up that high for?
I really like Brandon.
available.
I really like Brandon Miller. But the thing is that there's so much unknown shit surrounding him. I don't know if that's something that Sam Presti would reach for. So I go
the
back.
consensus is that there's just no way.
So I go back to it and I say it's Anthony Black, or we stay with 12 and we get what the cookie crumbles that are left, which aren't really that bad of cookie crumbles if you think about it.
It's a solid situation to be in. And I mean, I think there's an opportunity to evaluate the value of certain picks and say, like, hey, we can actually improve the quality of picks. I love the idea, like, last year the package that turned to the Knicks was really what was considered a package of players that, or picks that were like going to be around the 15 to 20 range, that he turned into the number 11 pick. This year, it's probably going to have to be a package of 3 picks that are probably around top 10, top 15 range if you want to move into the top 6 spot.
Yeah.
Or you could end up giving up a player.
It's going to cost you a nut.
Yeah.
And that's okay. But that's the thing about it is that if Sam sees that value in that and is willing to give up that nut for the top 6 positions, like then you have to say, like, how many times has Sam moved up in a draft?
Now, there's interest about teams moving up. There's more interest in teams moving down.
Yes.
And this is unusual in that way.
Because it's a very thick draft. Just ask Dick.
I saw some people wanting to move, like, get Dick around 8.
Well, listen. Dick will go top 10. He will. There's no way he doesn't go top. If
Really?
he doesn't go top
Okay.
10, it will shock me, because if he's sitting at 10 and Dallas doesn't pick him, I'd be like, because he fits what they're trying to do. I mean, there's
Somebody
so many good
recommended
players.
watching his high school highlights, and I went and did that. And
It's good.
Bill Self definitely limited his game.
No, but that's what remember I told you, what does Bill Self do?
He limits people's game.
By making them into exceptional role players.
Right.
Like, that's what he does. He develops role players. So it's not surprising to me that Dick went there and Dick became smaller because of it.
But when will Dick be big?
When Dick gets to have
Stimulated?
Dick has a real teacher. I don't know, man.
Well, I think it's fascinating. I think when you look at the types of players that we're covering, it's really impressive to me to
There's a lot of in
consider-
and out moments.
There's a lot of width in this draft. There's a lot of depth. Like, I mean, honestly, some of these guys, like the 2 French wings that we talked about, and then next draft you got a player like Alexander Sarr.
That's what I'm saying.
We are by far the worst at pronouncing names, pronouncing names, whatever, dude.
I
It's
don't
an embarrassment.
listen. It used to be embarrassment, but here's the thing with me is I'm tongue tied, guys. All right.
Yeah, well, you have good excuse. Okay, I
right.
don't. I just suck at
So-
saying names. But
So when I and on top of that, right, when I was 15 years old, I was playing in a basketball game, and the very small tip of my tongue that I did have, right, I went up for a rebound and somebody got me underneath the chin, and I snipped the tip of my tongue off. I was able to put it back together, but it still doesn't work like it used to. And I had some serious movement on it, but now it's like dead. So I do struggle very greatly with.
no, you're good. But
I had
one of
skills,
the
guys.
things-
No longer.
It's hard because we're talking about players that we've never really heard anybody say their names. I know I could, like, when I'm scouting them, I could, like, go out of my way to listen, but, like, I don't really care. I only care about, like, their game.
Yeah.
I get it. Like, some of these guys, like, we say their names so poorly that it's an embarrassment, but it's also like, hey,
Ba
we're
la
just
la
gonna- yeah. Oh my god, dude.
I said that so bad yesterday.
I can't even. No, I think I said it worse, but like, yeah, that's why
I think
just
it was
said the 2
Josh that
French
called me out
wings.
on that. Thank you, Josh. I appreciate that.
Whoever the fuck it was, I appreciate it because we know we suck, but in the end, we're taking it one player at a time and trying to evaluate what we think they can bring to the and,
Impact for the Thunder.
Right. So this is a little off track for what we've been doing, which is really trying to focus in on players that will be available in our range.
But we wanted you guys to know that, like, there are players in this draft, especially one player in particular, that is really worth trading up for. Now, if we wanted to trade, for, like, I don't know, Jace or something like that, I could see us going to 7 or something, but there's
Jarris?
certain. What's that?
Is it Jarris Walker, I think?
Jace Walker,
Yeah, see.
whatever. See, there we
Keep
go,
going, your
guys.
turn.
Proof and points. Oh man, well,
Exactly, bro.
I've
So,
got another week. Katie's gone.
Oh
So,
yeah.
Should be gone later today, so I'll be bacheloring pad with 3 fucking kids, man. It's gonna be great. So much fun. So excited.
No, George, I would not trade the 12th to get Steve back. But, you know,
What's up, George?
so let's talk about what we saw last night, bro. The Celtics stood up and punched back. Second half, only really, I was like, this is going to take a hell of a halftime speech. It wasn't like they were playing terrible, like they weren't out of the game in the first half, but, bro, they were not balling in the first half. And then they ended up really taking over. Like, this series is over, right?
It was. It felt like it was over.
Is
But
it still over?
I gotta say though, like I felt like what happened more so than anything was the Heat started celebrating early. Let's just be honest. Like the Heat didn't close out the game, and that's
They
on the
took
Heat.
their eye off the ball?
Yeah, that's on the Heat, and that's why when you listen to the after the game, and I was listening to everything that was happening, and they're like, well, we all make mistakes. This is one game, we'll get back because that's it. Like I could see the Celtics maybe winning one more game in this series, but that's it. I mean, the Heat are gonna get focused. There's no way you can win 4 games in a row against the Heat. Just no way. They're too good of a team. You're gonna get Hero back in the next week or so. There's just no way in the world this team is not going to be ready to go. Just not. You think there's a chance, don't you?
Well, I will remind you of, as Yankees fans, of a series
Fuck you, man.
where the Yankees had a 3-0 lead over Boston.
But
No buts, bro.
Boston Magic, bro.
I've never seen it happen in the NBA. I can't remember a 3-0 lead being overcome.
Do we seriously think that Boston could win 4 in a row and then go into the playoffs with that type of high and
Okay,
win?
so we've watched 4 games, bro, and Boston has played 1 good half.
I know. That's what I'm
So
trying to say.
what if they string together 2 good halves at home? Then all of a sudden you're looking at, well, they've played 3 good halves in a row.
I mean, it's not uncommon for an NBA team to win 4 games in a row, but it's very uncommon to win 4 games in a row in the
After losing
playoffs.
3. But here's the thing, they're still the number 1 seed. So if they figure it
2.
out, dude, I keep doing that.
You're
But
good. You're
in
good.
my mind, bro,
Remember,
they-
Heat had to lose to play the number 1 seed.
yeah, to me it's like,
Dude,
I'm
and by
looking-
the way, Mark said it yesterday. Said the Heat. Was it me? I don't know. One of us said that I felt like the Heat lost the first game on purpose.
yeah, he said that.
That was me.
Challenge the Bucks, yeah.
Yeah, and then I went back and looked at the rebounds, man. Like the Heat had 33 total rebounds, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the Hawks had 27 more rebounds than they did. So they pretty much out-rebounded them, doubled up the rebounds.
And they fixed their shit.
And it was just like, I mean, they got out-rebounded that badly by the Hawks. Like, what the crap, bro? And then it was just like, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe
Well,
they
I should have
lost
said the
first
higher
game.
seed. I should have said the higher seed, and then I've been fine. But yeah, so I feel like they could. But then again, it would be an epic collapse. And when you are counting on at the end, I've heard somebody say like, in a series, you expect your stars to get you 2 wins, your role players to get you a win, and your coaching to get you a win.
Dude, I heard rumors. LeBron James wants to go home
To Miami.
to Miami. So if they don't get it done, at least he has an excuse to go home.
Go home to which home?
I want to go home to that home that has the beach. Man, listen. LeBron James is done in LA. I really hope that he gets to go to a young team and just develop.
He's still got a year left. So what I've heard people kind of float the theory would be him taking the year off, but not retiring, getting surgery, and
Getting healthy.
getting healthy and then leaving.
I could see him doing that, but look at me, man. Like he could. I just don't. Here's the thing about it is that if he did that, the Los Angeles Lakers would want to trade him, to the team that he wanted, so they could save money on him or cut him immediately.
Yeah, but I think he's learned from previous experiences You don't want to trade assets from the place you're going to, because when you do that, you're the one who pays later.
I mean, I could see a team in the top like 7 that has cap space being like, we'll take LeBron. Listen, fuck it, man. I could see Portland making a really good offer.
He
for
would
LeBron.
never play. He would just be like,
Dude,
"Oh,
why
I'm
wouldn't
still
he play
not feeling-"
with Damian? Why wouldn't he do that? I think he would. I think he would play with Damian. I think he would play with Damian. I think he would play with 76ers. I think he would play with Celtics. I think that any team that is a baseline almost going to win a team, he would do it, because Lakers aren't going to ever be able
He
to
just
have that.
said that Portland was almost going to win it.
Well, I mean, you got Damian Lillard.
Yeah.
So you got like half of a piece ready to go. You would
mean-
need the coaching staff. You would need stuff like that. But with LeBron and Damian, you could build a team pretty quickly.
LeBron, maybe his foot was bothering us more than we know, because now we're starting to find out how much it was bothering him. But like in the end, like I don't see, like, here's the thing. And while I get it's hard for us to let go of our idols, and he still has some good basketball in front of him. Like Robert Parrish played for like 22 years or something, like, and he set the record, and then somebody else broke it and went like 23 years. But like, players don't play for 25 years. Like, it's never happened.
I don't think. Here's the thing, man. LeBron, first of all, wants to play with Bronny. Second of all,
yeah, so he has to take a year off if he wants to.
So second of all,
That's-
I don't think it's out of the question to play with Bryce for a year, because Bryce is the better player in my opinion. And if he's LeBron, he
You
wants
think
to.
Bryce is a better player
Dude,
because he hit a couple of shots in AAU.
Dude, have you watched Bryce, man? Dude,
I mean, he might be
he's
good, but-
legit. He's taller. He's bigger. Like, I'm telling you, he's going to be legit. Like, Bronny's good, but Bronny's good as a point guard, maybe a small shooting guard in the NBA. And like, how much? I mean, yeah, he could come out there and do some great things. I'm not saying shit on him, but I'm just saying, like, I look at Bryce as the one that LeBron would want to play with more so.
Let's leave it there. This is a good one, but obviously,
George, I have said it. I would love to see Bron come off the bench for us. Start Bronny.
write that shit down, everybody. You heard it here first. All right, man.
All right, guys, appreciate it.
Love you guys. We'll see you